are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am covering more haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find links to everything at the website for the show, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And links there would include the all the episodes of the show and ways to listen and ways to support the show, and also friends of the show. And that would also include Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of the show on Saturdays whenever she's able to make it. And a couple of things to note for this show, for this type of show that I do. The way it works is I find a short list for each state in the U.S. of haunted places and get a summary generated about the location, and also include 2 links to each location in the episode description, so you can check them out for yourselves and see pictures and do more research on your own, which is important because I also want to remind everyone not all these places will be accessible anymore for various reasons. So please do your own research, make sure find out whether it is okay or not to visit a place, and how and when to do that, because I do not recommend trespassing for any reason. And I apologize in advance, as always, if I mispronounce any names of people or places, as words are hard. So, with that, we can continue here. We have a longer one here than... Oops, I'm in the wrong file. I hope I get the right file. This will be a little bit longer than usual, just because of the location. I guess it's because it's bigger and all that, but we'll find out why here as we go. Let's see here. So this next location, we're starting the state of New Jersey, going alphabetical here. And this next location is the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens are famous for being both a real ecological region and a rich source of folklore. A vast, sandy, fire-shaped landscape in southern New Jersey that also produced ghost towns, local legends, and some of the state's best-known hauntings. The haunting reputation comes from the region's isolation, abandoned industrial settlements, old roads, marshes, and long-running stories like the Jersey Devil. And we'll probably be revisiting that when we do our series on cryptids of the U.S., or creatures across the U.S. But anyway, regional history. The wider Pine Barrens region covers about 1.1 million acres, wow, or roughly 22% of New Jersey, and is the largest surviving open space area on the eastern seaboard between Maine and Florida. People have lived there for more than 10,000 years. The earliest inhabitants were native peoples, and Europeans began settling the area in the 1600s. Early industries included shipbuilding, whaling, bog iron, glass making, forestry, cranberry farming, interesting, and later paper and brick production. That industrial history left behind a chain of villages that are now seen as ghost towns, including Batsto, Batsto, Atzian, Harrisville, Friendship, that's a neat name, Weymouth, I'm not sure. Oh wait, Weymouth Furnace, sorry, and others. Some sites were once thriving company towns and were later abandoned when their industries failed or moved elsewhere. The region's modern preservation story is also important. Federal and state protection in 1978 and 79 created the Pinelands National Reserve and the New Jersey Pinelands Commission. why it feels haunted. A lot of the Pine Barrens haunting image comes from geography and history rather than one single event. The woods are dense, the roads can be lonely, the wetlands are foggy, and many settlements were abandoned. So the landscape naturally supports ghost stories. Also, a quick side note, fog and mist tend to be associated with some paranormal activity where things, apparitions or other things either come into or the mist or come out of the mist or go into mist or seem to form mist or just appear before or after fog or mist. So uh, just a side note there on that. Old ruins, cemeteries, mill foundations, and remote trails make the region feel like a place where the past never fully left. The area also has a long tradition that blends folklore, family stories, and newspaper-era sensationalism. Because of the Pinelands, where let me see here. Let's read this again. Because the Pinelands were relatively isolated, strange lights, sounds, and animal sightings were often interpreted as supernatural long before modern explanations were considered. Major legends. The most famous legend is the Jersey Devil, also called the Leeds Devil in older versions of the story. Folklore places it in the Pine Barrens and describes it as a winged hoofed creature that emerges from marshes and woods, with reports of sightings spanning more than 250 years. The legend became especially famous in 1909 when a wave of reported sightings and newspaper coverage turned it into a regional panic. Another important figure is James Still, known as the Black Doctor of the Pines, a real 19th century herbalist whose reputation later inspired ghost lore about a helpful spirit aiding injured or stranded travelers. That's fascinating. I like that, though. Uh, Pine Barrens folklore also includes uh, the black dog, the white stag, a mourning girl, Mourning, girl, near the coast, and stories tied to Captain Kidd's ghost. These legends vary by town, but they all reinforce the idea that the Pinelands are a place where history, myth, and local memory overlap. Of course, they say myth because they have to, because, anyway. Notable haunted places. So this is, again, covering a larger area here, not just one building or even one town, technically. So let's see what we have here. Again, I don't know how you say this exactly. It's spelled Batsto, so Batstow? I'm not sure. Batstow Village is one of the best-known historic sites, with restored buildings, a mansion, and remains of its former ironworks and mill community. Atzian and Harrisville are especially evocative because they preserve ruins from old industrial towns, making them popular stops for people interested in history and ghost stories. Friendship, Weymouth Furnace, and Martha Furnace are other classic Pine Barrens sites where abandoned industry and legend feed each other. The Carranza Memorial and surrounding forest also show how the region mixes tragedy, memory, and wilderness into a haunted atmosphere. In the Pine Barrens, haunted often means less a single famous ghost, or ghost house, and more a whole cultural landscape of forgotten roads, old mills, and stories that cling to them. And So yeah, that's basically it for that one. Hello, sweets. I see you there in the chat. Um, so that's basically it for that one, and that's fascinating to me. You have all these places. Uh, Again, such a large region. It doesn't surprise you that there's multiple things that are reported to happen there. And again, like I said, we'll probably end up revisiting the Pine Barrens when we do our series on creatures or cryptids of the U.S. and go from there. But I think this does fit here too because again, it does have reports of a lot of apparitions apparently, and so yeah, I thought that was neat. And again, if you looked up the Pine Barrens on any kind of paranormal and any kind of those two terms together, you'll probably find a lot of content out there on it as well. But moving on to the next location here, and this must be from another a name from another region, not from the U.S., but I could be wrong. The Emlyn Physic Estate, and this is a Victorian mansion in Cape May, New Jersey, built in 1879 for Dr. Emlyn Physic Jr. and designed by Frank Furness. That's Furnes. Today it is a house museum operated by Cape May MAC. I wonder if there's probably an abbreviation for something that's associated with the just preservation of the area. It's also widely promoted as Cape May's original haunted house, with recurring stories about ghostly footsteps, voices, and a few named spirits. History. Emlyn Physic came from a wealthy Philadelphia family and built the estate as a country home on about 11 acres in Cape May. The mansion originally had 18 rooms and was part of a larger property that included outbuildings and land used for farming and animals. Architecturally, it is one of the best known examples of Victorian thick style design in the country, and it is the only Frank Furness domestic commission open to the public. By the 1960s, the house had fallen into disrepair, but local preservation efforts led by the Mid-Atlantic Center for the Arts helped save it from demolition. The city acquired it in 1973, and it became a museum. Haunting lore. The estate's haunting reputation centers on reports of phantom footsteps, strange voices, and unexplained disturbances, especially on the upper floors. Visitors and staff have also linked the mansion to sightings of Aunt Emily and Aunt Isabella, members of the Physic household. And that's spelled Physick, which is fascinating. I wonder where that name comes from. I have to look into that. Another common legend, and I've seen that in links, so it's not just any kind of like misprinting or whatever. At least not a simple one. Anyway, another common legend involves ghost dogs said to be the spirits of Emlyn Physic's pets. Cape May ghost tours and estate programs have helped keep these stories alive, so the haunting is part folklore, part local tourism tradition. And probably some sightings mixed in there, if they're being reported. It's possible. What makes the Physic estate especially interesting is that it blends solid historical preservation with strong local ghost lore. The house is not just said to be haunted. It is also a well-documented historic site with a preserved Victorian interior which gives the stories a stronger sense of place. It's one of the best examples of how Cape May combines architectural history family legacy and paranormal storytelling into a single attraction. So that's fascinating. Yeah, that's sounds like a lot going on there. So I'm really fascinated. I may have to look up that name again later and just look into the history of that again. So I'm curious about because again, physic. It's basically the word physic, like as in physics, but with a K at the end. So I'm wondering what the connection, if there is one at all there, with all that. But anyway, this next location is the Burlington County Prison Museum in Mount Holly, New Jersey. And this is a National Historic Landmark completed in 1811 and designed by Robert Mills. It stayed in constant use until 1965, making it one of the oldest continuously used prisons in the United States. Its heavy stone and brick construction and fireproof interior vaulting were part of an early 19th century Reform-era design meant to be secure and durable. History. The prison was built to replace older county confinement facilities and reflected a reform-minded approach that emphasized controlled confinement excuse me, over simple punishment. It remained active for more than 150 years, and the county later opened it as a museum after closure. Because of its long operating life, the building saw a wide range of inmates, including people executed on the grounds earlier eras, which adds to historical reputation. 1 second here. Okay. So let me get back to the material here. Oops. Let me stop pressing keys on the keyboard that don't need to be pressed. There we go. Haunting claims. The museum says the first reports of spirits date to 1833, after the execution of Joel Clough, Clough, whose story is tied closely to the prison's dungeon, in quotation marks, cell. Reported activity includes moaning, rattling chains, cigarette smoke in the dungeon, apparitions, and missing tools later found in locked cells during 1990s renovation. That's fascinating. Renovations. That's fascinating because, again, it's how do these things vanish and reappear in locked areas where a physical person could not easily get to. The museum also says paranormal teams have recorded voices, orb-like lights, and electromagnetic spikes, and that repeated investigations have led it to be considered one of New Jersey's most haunted buildings. Notable ghost lore. Joel Clough is the best-known spirit story associated with the prison, and visitors and guides often point to the dungeon as the center of activity. Other reports mention cold spots, a tall male figure in uniform in the basement, and equipment malfunctions, especially around the third floor and death cell areas. The preserved graffiti on the cell walls also gets attention because it gives a very direct window into inmates' lives and is often described as adding to the building's eerie atmosphere. Visiting and investigations. The prison museum still allows paranormal investigations at scheduled times, and the county lists paranormal rentals through its official museum page. Public ghost tour coverage has also highlighted it as a seasonal attraction, especially around Halloween, of course. So, yeah, that's it for that one, and that is fascinating. I mean, terrible that people have to be in prison, and then of course killed because of crimes and all that. But that is one of those common types of haunted places. I'm not going to say a ton about that because I'd like to get one more location in here before we stop for this episode. So one moment here. All right, and we are on the Absecon Lighthouse. I'm not sure how to say that correctly, but this is in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and it's a major maritime landmark with a long history tied to shipwrecks, coastal danger, and later preservation. It was built beginning in 1854, first lit on January 15th, 1857, officially decommissioned in 1933, and is now the tallest lighthouse in New Jersey and one of the tallest masonry lighthouses in the United States. History. The lighthouse was authorized after years of lobbying by Jonathan Pitney, often called the father of Atlantic City, because the waters off Absecon Inlet were notoriously dangerous. Its original purpose was to guide ships away from shoals and reduce the wrecks that had made the area infamous. Almost said famous. The tower retains its original first-order Fresnel lens, which is a major historical feature and one reason it is especially notable among U.S. lighthouses. The site also has a preservation story. After deactivation, the lighthouse was restored and reopened to the public in 1999, with the Keeper's House Museum following later, turning the property into a historical attraction rather than an active navigational aid. Haunted reputation. The lighthouse has a strong ghost story reputation, though the reports are mostly eyewitness claims and local lore rather than documented proof. Commonly reported accounts include phantom footsteps, ghostly voices, apparitions, strange cigar smoke odors, electrical disturbances, and shadow figures in photos. That's fascinating. Some stories say visitors and workers have experienced these events inside the tower and around the grounds. So one of the best-known legends says a lighthouse keeper saw the Jersey Devil on top of the tower in 1905 and fired at it. That's fascinating. Other explanations for the hauntings focus on the tragic maritime history of the area, especially shipwrecks and the lives lost before the lighthouse existed. So that's going to do it for this episode and that location. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.